Welcome everybody to an exciting episode of the Everything Horror Podcast. My name is Paul Doski, and joining us, well, I'm just gonna take a bow for a minute because this is such an honor to talk to a cool man behind the scenes of one of my favorite podcasts, if I may say, one of my favorite uh, series of all time because I used to grow up with it, and it just scared the bejesus out of me with all the creepy, bizarre, missing people. And if you don't know what I'm talking about by now, I'm talking about Unsolved Mysteries. But anyway, so without further ado, I would love you all to get introduced to the narrator behind the Unsolved Mysteries podcast, Steve French. Steve, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Paul. What an introduction. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate everybody else that I was in contact with to help make this happen as well. So, I will say it right now, just to be on the record with you too, and for everybody listening. I know I'm an indie creator, but it always like blows my mind when somebody that I find such passion for a project, and you, Steve. I mean, so the joke, I don't want to say the joke, right? But the phrase is as Unsolved Mysteries came to be, and even with the Netflix series of not having a host, so they're letting the people actually talk about the situation. And then I hear that Unsolved Mysteries is coming back as a podcast form, and it's just I wonder how they're gonna do this. And it's I wonder who the narrator is gonna be. And then as soon as I heard the first episode, I was hooked with you. You are the perfect host, as I may say. And that was the joke between all my friends is we always tried to figure out if Unsolved Mysteries ever had to pick a host again, who would it be? And bravo, Steve. I enjoy every episode. And speaking of which, since we are recording on the following Wednesday here, I did listen to today's new episode, and what a mystery that one is, and what a shame. I feel bad.
Isn't that amazing? Well, thank you very much for those extraordinarily kind words, and I'm so happy you found the show and are enjoying it. Yeah, Kevin Kluwer's case is devastating. And actually, on Twitter, I was in touch with his brother Ron, who features heavily in that with his beautiful, heartbreaking interview. And so that's something very special about this job and in our day of social media, where occasionally I'm able to connect with some of the folks that have been interviewed for this. And, I'm telling these stories, but it's sort of at a bit of a remove, right? So that's why this job is so important, because I can connect with people who are directly involved. And so it means a lot. It's very important and very special, this job that I have, which really isn't a job. It's more than that, But yeah, so it's a heartbreaking story, and I hope that it seems like it's something that could be close to being solved. There's a lot of pieces in place, and I think as long as what I love about the podcast is it can get out there very quickly and a lot of ears on it, and so hopefully. So thank you for listening, and thanks to everybody out there who reached out just today. That they listened to it. So I've got faith, and Ron, his brother, has been a tireless advocate for justice for his brother, and so hopefully, fingers crossed, we can all work together and get this one solved.
Yeah, and I think that's another reason why I like the podcast with the girl with the S tattoo. I love that you guys did an update on that, and I don't know if that was actually part of season 2 or not, but still, I mean, it was just nice to actually be able to relive that old days where we got to watch this episode, and then maybe later on they updated it with the updated information to it. So just that alone was just so nice, and it's actually great that we were able now with that girl with the S tattoo. We had a name, and she would actually be able to be buried properly. And even though the people that were taking care of the grave beforehand, I mean, bless them.
Yes, another moving story, and I'm glad you mentioned that one. I feel like that is, we had the first episode in season 1, and then because of the format of the podcast, how great that we're able to do these sort of deep dives into an update. And obviously, we hope that we have many more of those. Back in the day, it was always the most exciting thing if you heard Robert Stack in his iconic voice say "update." The best word you could possibly hear on the series. To get to do an entire episode is very special. So that's a great asset that the podcast enables us to have. So. Very special episode. I felt like that recording that. I thought, wow, this is Unsolved Mysteries storytelling at its best. What Cosgrove Muir has done for so long now. Just to be a part of it, it's still a thrill. I still pinch myself that I get to in some small way be a part of the legacy of this show. It's very special.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to remember the case name right now. It was the Lost Siblings, where the two kids were being missed. And I know you have a family.
Two lost brothers, yep.
Yeah, the two lost brothers. Now, I know as a parent, because, both of us are parents, like when you get these documents or files to basically for you to narrate, especially when kids are involved, and as a parent, how do you, when you read that, how do you feel? Like either even going into it at first to be like, whoa, okay, like this involved a kid and I have a family of my own.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, it's the strange thing about this show is that it suddenly made me look. I guess maybe I was sort of I don't know if I was a naive person or believed too heavily in human good or something, but it's the show obviously opens our eyes to some really dark aspects of humanity, and especially when children are involved. I cannot imagine what it would be like to lose my son, right? I cannot imagine what these families are going through. I don't know how you can get out of bed the next day if you in some days it's just days or weeks. I mean, even those initial hours, right, of someone in your family, your child is missing, not knowing what to do. I mean, the adrenaline that goes through, the anxiety, the stress, the million different questions that you're asking yourself, to then have it stretch on to days, to weeks, to months, to years, to decades in some cases. These families are living extraordinary existences, and I'm always fascinated listening to the interviews and listening to someone who has been through this experience, and how you can hear in their voice, something that not every human has. It's an experience that very few people have lived, and so it's always very humbling to tell these stories. It's not. I know we have a big fan base, and sometimes people, oh, I'm excited for the next episode. I'm excited for the next episode, and sure. But it's also, I mean, this is heavy stuff, and especially anything with children is, it's a great question that you bring up. It's very hard. It's very. I definitely hug my boy a little tighter after I do one of these, and you just pray that never ever happens, and so we hope that we can bring at least some sort of closure to folks that have lost so much.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that too, because that was one of the reasons why I wanted to ask that, is because I remember seeing your post. I think it was on Instagram about you like hugging your son that next morning after the terrible event that took place, and I just remember your post was saying like I'd never hugged my son harder and cried as much as I could have, just because you just never know, and as you put it. So yeah, and I look at that now like with my own family, and I know I got like another 3 years before she gets into preschool and all that stuff, but and kindergarten. But still, I mean, it's like you said, like how does one wake up in the morning next day, or even how does even anybody function during that day after the event?
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and you couldn't blame. Everyone is different and unique, and it's fascinating to see how people are able to deal with it. So I'm always very moved when we hear from folks like today. I was telling you, Ron had tagged us on Twitter, and to be able to just say, thank you for sharing your story with us and for letting us tell the story. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I remember seeing comments about like, thank you for even sharing the story, because this is important. This meant a lot to us and stuff like that. So whether that's part of the family or even just people in general that just heard about the story, it's nice that, now that you guys are pushing it out more. So hopefully then it will, strike strike something to get it solved.
Absolutely.
And yeah. Now, I just want to take a step back for a minute from this sadness because I know what we're just talking about is kind of like real, and I just want to kind of tango down for a minute. But yeah, so Steve,
Mhm.
so let's go backwards for a minute. So at the very beginning, what kind of made you want to become a narrator for different projects? Because you do a lot. You do games, films, commercials, and I want to say something else, but it's brain farting me right now.
That's all right. Yeah, no, I've been lucky to pursue a lot of different things in the voiceover world. I was, my it was funny. I was thinking about it earlier today. My very first voiceover experience was in middle school. They had a thing where they would bring different students in to do the morning announcements. It was kind of a little fun, goofy thing that they would do. And I remember it was on a phone, and they'd dial a code, and then it would be on the loudspeaker. And at that point, I was living in Maryland, Crofton Meadows Elementary, and I guess the only thing I knew was Robin Williams and Good Morning Vietnam. And so the other kids would get on, and it was sort of low key. Good morning, Crofton Meadows. Today's weather is this. In the lunchroom, we will have this. And I just said, well, what the heck, Good morning, Crofton Meadows. And I suddenly became like the go-to guy to do the morning announcements. If somebody called in sick, let's haul Steve out of English class, and we'll get him down to the Steve. We got to get you in the studio. We got to get these morning announcements laid down. So that's what I started to realize. Like, I guess maybe I have a knack or something for this. But then kind of fell in love with acting, and I was a stage actor for many years. I went to school at the Amazing Heart School in Hartford, Connecticut. I grew up in Maine in this small town called Damascotta that was incredibly supportive and got to do all kinds of amazing things there. Didn't know if I'd be a singer or an actor, and I eventually decided to be an actor and got great classical training at the Heart School and studied Shakespeare in England, and did musicals at regional theaters around off Broadway, and I'm even on a off Broadway cast album. And but then slowly but surely, once I knew that I kind of wanted to get off the road a little bit, and my wife and I wanted to start a family, voiceover was the technology was improving such that you could have a home studio with relative ease and get yourself set up. So I started to do that, and then little by little, I've been able to put these different jobs together, and was really kind of open to whatever came along. I did, I growing up, it was always like, voiceover. That's a thing that actors do, where you book a national commercial and it'll pay your rent for a few months. And it was always the side thing. And I only knew one guy, the great Dennis Predovic, who was the voice of National Geographic Channel for years. He was a voiceover guy. He'd been an actor, but he was an amazing voiceover guy. And I thought, maybe I'd like to do that. And so little by little, I'm certainly not in those guys' leagues, but I've been able to do this. I'm here in my home studio, and very lucky to do that. So yeah, I get to your original question. I mean, it was just kind of, whatever using my voice somehow, whatever that might mean. And so I've been able to kind of, try out all these different sides of the voiceover world. So I feel very lucky that way.
Yeah, you're very lucky. And so, did you put that on your resume too? That you were that you started back in school?
I should have. You may have heard my morning announcements about the sizzling ham steak at Crofton Meadows Elementary School.
Yeah, during one time. Yep.
Yeah, but
yeah.
No, so and then this, the Unsolved Mysteries came along. I guess it was towards the fall of 2020. And I said, I'd known about, obviously grew up with the show, and knew the Netflix series. And then I saw this thing. Oh wow, they're doing an Unsolved Mysteries podcast. Well, that's cool. I'll audition for it like I do every audition that comes in, and then I'll send it off, and then I'll get depressed because I know I just won't book that job, and I'll forget about it. And okay, that's great. And then all of a sudden, I was a finalist for this job, and communicating with Christine and Courtney and Terry, and all of a sudden it was happening. And I was, so it was kind of this whirlwind to suddenly be, wow, you're the new voice of Unsolved Mysteries. Pretty crazy.
Yes, and like I said, you're a perfect fit, Steve, as I may say. So you're got that voice. I'm telling you. So I'm trying to think here. Like, it's like with audiobooks even too. You look for the voice that you don't get annoyed with in 5 minutes or even 30 seconds. So,
Right, right.
so, but would you like, it was just like, wow, like this, I just feel like this person, like before talking to you right now, I was just like, this Steve guy, like he fits the part, like, and I'm glad that you were able, and you're able to, like, as I'll probably call this episode is, you're keeping the stories alive.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you. Yeah, maybe that should be on my website or something. Steve French. You won't get annoyed with his voice in 30 seconds because that's. But you're right. I mean, that's a big thing with audiobooks. Everyone has their very specific narrators that they love, and so that obviously was a big deal going into this. I had to sort of just try to shut that out because I said, everyone knows Robert Stack from the show. There is no way I'm ever going to compete with him. I wouldn't try to, obviously. And obviously those comparisons will be there, but how do we kind of keep that same relationship to the stories, to the original show, but make it our own, and just try to tell these stories and not get bogged down in how closely are we matching. So when I started to get the job, I watched a couple episodes, went back and watched a couple episodes, and then I said, okay, I can't do this because I will just I'll never feel as confident as Robert Stack, and I'll just make a fool of myself. So all right. All right, I kind of grasp, remember where the show was, and then how is this format similar and different, and how am I going to tell these stories? So I'm very, very happy and very pleased that you and other fans have found some comfort in what we're doing.
Well, I was, even back then, besides like the missing cases and the cold cases, I always looked for the paranormal. I was always hoping like the paranormal would come on because, quite frankly, like, you know, um, as I grew older, I started to have my own experiences, and then I kind of,
Really?
yeah. So then, I kind of pushed it aside for a little bit, but then after, listening to like Robert Stack talk about like the Queen's Mary ship there,
Uh huh.
in
Uh huh.
California there, and then the other like type of ghost stories that would come about, and I'll never forget. Um, Unsolved Mysteries did one on our famous lake monster back in 1986, I believe. But it was about our Lake Champlain monster, Champ.
Right. 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 Yeah, I'd have to ask Terry about that because Terry Dunmura, the co-creator and who I work with directly recording these episodes, she can recall every single episode off the top of her head. It's just extraordinary. This is like encyclopedic memory of all the cases they've covered. Yeah, I feel the same way. I can still remember some of the mug shots. The kind of the
The hand
drawings.
drawn. Yeah.
Yes, the hand drawings of the suspects, and just still terrified. I don't know why I was allowed to watch those shows when I was a kid because it's absolute. I mean, just absolute. Even today, you try to watch through some of that, and or I'll try to listen through our rough cuts. The producers always send me the rough cuts of the episodes a couple days before we record, so I can hear through the stories and hear what we're doing. And even then, I tried. The first couple episodes, I made the mistake of doing. Okay, when I'm getting ready for bed, and I'll lie in bed and I'll listen to the episodes, and I couldn't do
A
it. I had to
bad
turn on.
idea.
No, terrible idea. Rookie error. So definitely couldn't do that. Yeah, they stick, and it's interesting, isn't it? The show has these fans that have their different categories. We started off. I guess it was our second episode of this season was a paranormal episode, and somebody on Twitter said, "What a great start to the season." And I said, "Oh, well, don't forget we had an episode last week." And she said, "My season started this week." so so I understand, and I don't, I try to be welcoming to everybody. Say, listen, just try us out. I promise we won't let you down. But I understand that there are divisions here that people need to follow. So
Well, I kind of get it. I mean, I'll touch on that for a minute. Like, we get already so much terror in the real world just by turning on our own TVs or going
right,
on social media. So
right.
just hearing something bizarre, unknown, haunting, I think that kind of helps, make us wonder more and ask ourselves more of like, what is there more to this life than what we're not seeing or whatever's going on, and that's kind of like, and actually that was the first episode, by the way. So that was
Right.
the first
Right.
episode.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and that was the haunting of Ball Cemetery, as I
Right.
remember.
Absolutely right. Yeah, good memory. No, that's such a great point, Paul. I mean, we recorded I won't give any spoilers away, but we recorded a paranormal episode just earlier this week, and there's
Ooh,
a
can't wait.
ghost. There's a ghost in it, and we don't know what happened to cause this ghost to still be there. But in a way, oddly, it was sort of like you're saying. It was sort of refreshing to have something that wasn't, nothing terrible happened besides the haunting. Nothing terrible happens in the episode. So in a way, it was sort of like, oh, like just like you said, it was a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Like, okay, this isn't so dark. This isn't so sad. Um, you know, it's hard for me to say I have fun narrating these episodes, right? Because it's about this really heavy stuff. I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy working with Terry. So every once in a while, I totally understand, and exactly as you put it, there is something about the paranormal which makes. I personally have never that I can think of had a paranormal experience myself, but it does make you think, and I would never close off. The people, oh, ghosts don't exist. This is a joke. I mean, what an exciting thing! What a cool thing to think that outside of our normal realm of understanding that there's more to this. So beautifully put. And obviously you're a big horror fan. So what got you into horror? I mean, what is it about horror as a genre? Is it something about sort of the way it makes you feel, or is there something specific about horror itself that attracts you to do your great shows and put together your awesome website?
Basically, it's more of like, so when I was 8 years old, I was that naughty kid that would get out of bed during the middle of the night because I heard something weird going on the TV. And of course, obviously, I knew it was something that I couldn't watch. So, of
Right.
course, I like sneakily went down the stairs, somehow did not ever get caught, especially with the loud stairs we have. And I kind of peeked into the living room, and it was Bram Stoker Dracula.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so it was the part where the werewolf was taking Mina, I want to say, onto the table, and that I kind of watched a little bit after that, and then I was just like, okay, I don't know if I really should be watching this. So then I actually went up to bed. But as I grew older, I guess I look at horror as, yes, a way to maybe try to get scared. However, nowadays I feel that's kind of sluggish now. I don't know. Maybe because of all the remakes and reboots, it's just kind of like, okay, there's nothing fresh going on anymore.
Right.
So now it's just more like trying to find something that will trigger like that old fear again. Kind of like I remember when Blockbuster was around, right? I used to go on Friday night and I rented the Force Kind, and then I rented the very first Paranormal Activity because I heard it's so good. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So anyway, what a bad idea that was, especially when I had lack of sleep. So I watched them simultaneously, and then afterwards, it was almost like I couldn't go to sleep. It was almost like I had that weird paranoia of like somebody's watching me or something.
Sure.
And then as I grew older a little bit more too, it was just more like, yeah, whatever. Like I know it's Hollywood, so it's just like, I'm fine now. But I get more fascinated with horror stuff when it's based on a true event.
Right.
Because then that makes me want to research the real story.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. And then basically now it's just like after my own personal experiences with the paranormal and stuff, I figured, well, I'm gonna try investigating, and then I did that for a couple years. Caught some really crazy stuff, and then later on, I actually I have the shirt right here. So I then started a community. Hopefully you can see it. Maybe not. Nope. I don't think so. Okay. So the screen is. I'll just have to send you like an email or something,
Sure.
or um, basically. Anyway, so I started a group called the Haunted Vermont
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in 2012, and don't mind my mess because we've been cleaning. So this
Sure.
is what I was trying to show you.
Nice.
Get real
Nice.
focus. So
Yeah.
I'm on my 10th year anniversary, and
Nice.
then down in the water there, that's supposed to be Champ.
Great. Great.
And then
I love it.
which way is it going? And then over in the woods, I have like a skeleton, Sasquatch, a ghost, and then in the sky, I have a Thunderbird and a UFO.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's been the fun of it, and then everything else. So I don't know if you can even see that on. Or maybe you can. Can you actually see the logo behind me now?
Oh yeah. Yep. Looks great.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the bigger version of it. So you can kind of see it a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I did that for 10 years because, like, I kind of like the folklore, the urban legend and stuff aspect, and then it's a nice way to have a share stories of local Vermont tales. And there's some I've never even heard of, and then I was able to share my own that people never even heard of. So it was a nice mixture.
That's great. That
Yeah,
is great.
yeah. Now, is there any favorite ghost stories of yours in Maine by chance, there, Steve?
I have to say, I can't really think of any. It's, like I said, I haven't had much of a paranormal experience in my own life.
It doesn't
But
have to be your own, but like, have you
no,
heard
but
your own?
like I haven't. I don't really know if there is any sort of. I mean, I'm sure there is. And being up in the North Woods, there's sort of always a Sasquatch element to things up there. Um, but no, nothing that jumps to mind. I have to say for my experience in Maine. But I'll go. You've given me some homework. I'll have to go and look up some Maine ghost stories.
Well, feel free to let me know. Then if we have to have you come back on too to share some of these stories, I'd love to actually hear it too, if
Sure,
you don't
sure.
mind. Yeah. Um. So I guess you sort of kind of I think answered it just a little bit. So you hear. So when you prepare yourself to do like the narration for the podcast, do you hear the interviews at all before going into it?
Yep. Yeah. I basically hear kind of a rough cut of all the interviews and some of the sound design. It's still a work in progress, but I basically hear the episode with scratched narration from our amazing editors and producers who are putting the script together. And so I'll listen to that a few times, and I study the script a few times before we go in. And then Terry and I have a session where every 2 weeks we'll record 2 episodes. Sometimes they're similar, sometimes they're a little bit different. And so I've got, I don't have a long gestation period with them, but it's usually the weekend before. So it's great. I mean, I easily have done plenty of narration jobs or different voiceover jobs where you have no idea what you're going to be laid on top of, or what the whole thing looks like. So to get a chance to hear all that is very helpful, and certainly informs everything that I'm able to do.
Very cool. Now, throughout the recording process, so how many takes do you have to do?
Well, I would like to think that I'm pretty good at not messing up too much. So we typically do sort of 2 different takes of each of the different paragraphs, as you're listening to. And then if Terry has a note, then we'll jump back and do another take or 2 of it. But I try to be as efficient as possible with what I do, so our narration sessions, if you break it down, I probably only have 5 or so minutes of narration throughout the whole thing. Most of our shows are rightfully so, are the interviews. It depends on what kind of a story it is and how much information we need to add in, that needs to get covered by a narrator. But our sessions typically for getting 2 episodes done, about an hour, a little over an hour. And then Terry and I, of course, have to catch up and chit chat a little bit, talk about things. So that adds some time too.
Hey, you got to have fun every now and then, right? You can't just be serious all the time.
Exactly.
Now, I guess, Steve, is there like a favorite project that you've actually enjoyed? Like, I don't want to say favorite, but is there like one project you've done, whether it be commercial or for like a movie or something, that you just felt like you really were the character?
That's a fun question. I always demur when somebody is like, you were even catching yourself a bit. What's your favorite? And of course, they're all my favorites. But everything's a little bit different. In your wheelhouse, I don't know if you've ever seen the what I think is a very beautiful kind of meta horror film, Todd Strauss-Schelson's The Final Girls.
Oh yeah,
But I'm the voiceover at the very beginning of that movie, the Camp Bloodbath trailer at the start of it. And that was one of those gigs, like I was talking about, where you don't know what's going on, where I got a call. I had auditioned for this thing and forgot about it. Can you come in today? How quick can you get there? Suddenly I was in this, great ADR soundstage, and okay, hi, I'm Todd here. This is my movie. Let me show you this clip. Okay. Can you get up there and do the thing? And we laid it down, and all right, see you later. And that was it. It was this real whirlwind. And then it's gone on to become this cult favorite. A really beautiful film. I imagine fans of your site have probably laid eyes on it. But that was kind of a wonderful thing to be a part of. I've gotten to do a handful of specials and series narrations for National Geographic that I love doing.
That's where I've actually, I think, first heard you and not realized it was you. So when I actually went back and relooked at your credits and saw National Geographic, I was like, no way.
Yeah, it was very sweet. I knew that I was very lucky when I guess last year I narrated this Nat Geo special about the Mars rover, the Perseverance rover that's on Mars and plugging away right now, called Built for Mars, available on Disney Plus. I remember seeing on Twitter somebody said that podcast had started up, and then she was in Australia, and she said, "I'm watching this special about the Mars rover, and I think the guy that does Unsolved Mysteries Podcast is doing this." And I thought, wow, how lucky am I that that I get to do this thing from my little padded room here, and somebody in Australia knows my voice from these various projects. So that is a far cry from where I ever thought I would be in this industry. So very thankful every day for anything I get to work on.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I just want to see now. Where's that tab? There it is. I'm pretty sure you will have fun with this one. So going back to the paranormal realm for a minute, so that way you can take a breather and have a drink as well, there, Steve. But no, I get it. You're always talking and stuff, and I like I said, I appreciate your time and everything else. So back to the paranormal, when I was saying like I used to investigate. So I have a clip that I'd like to show you.
I sure can.
All right. So I'm hoping the audio is going to be working. If not, please let me know that the audio is not working.
You find one? I found a Ralph.
Oh, we're good.
Oh, Ralph?
Maybe you did hear a Ralph.
Take a picture. No, I know we heard a Ralph. Take a Ralph. Take that picture.
Here's an Emma.
I did get a female. I just never got her name.
I got the lights off.
All right.
Can't really see it.
Nice. I can see it.
Did you get it?
Yeah, he got it.
I was gonna say, if you want, I can try.
Well, I can get close.
There's Ralph.
You're not alone.
Who we talk? Ralph. Ralph.
You're not alone.
So there you are, Steve.
So was that you? Is that something that you had been working on?
Yeah, that was from 10 years ago.
Wow.
So with the footage that you just saw with me trying to pan the gravestone there of Ralph, that was me basically a week later after that clip that came in of the spirit box session that we did with the embodied voice basically saying Ralph to our question of what is your name. So basically I just want to share with you that so the July 15th is when we basically broke out the spirit box because it was my new equipment at the time. So obviously I wanted to go and test it out. And so we got Ralph. And we never went and looked for the gravestone or anything. And so we were just like, well, maybe we can, try to find it maybe in a week or something. So a week later, the people that were with me in that original footage where you heard Ralph, they weren't able to join me the week later. So I had a new person and 3 other people come, and we were able to find that gravestone like a week later, just to confirm, like, I didn't have any prior knowledge at all. And It's
Wow.
just interesting that we got a Ralph a week prior, and then a week later is when we find a gravestone.
Wow. How cool. It's
And
really spooky stuff, man. It is really intriguing.
so, this Ralph, if it's the same Ralph, because I actually found 2 different Ralphs, so I don't know which Ralph it was. But since it does sound like it's an older gentleman, I want to put, like, my theory that because of the little deep voice that you heard of Ralph there in that clip, it's a veteran from World War II that is buried there, and he's still lingering in that cemetery. I don't know, though.
Yeah. Interesting.
It is.
Wow.
Well, Steve, before I let you go too, because I don't know how much time we have with you, but is there anything that you would like to ask me, or is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to share?
Gosh, no, I don't think so. I'm always interested. We talked a little bit about the genesis of your horror fascination, and it's been really, really, really cool for me to see fans of the show and how they react to certain cases. The devotion to Unsolved Mysteries for decades now. And I know that there are some folks that don't want anything to do with the podcast, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But I'm so very happy for the people that have welcomed us into their devices and into their headphones, and made us a part of their listening. And obviously, there's no shortage of true crime podcasts out there and paranormal podcasts. But for me to be a part of, really the original mystery show that was really the first show to ever have, include that famous call to action, is very special. So thank you for inviting me on, and for your interest in the show, and for helping us spread the word about all these really vital and important cases. So thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Steve. And real quick, too, before I even forget, and people yell at me, too, for not asking this, but if people wanted to reach out to you for, a voiceover work or anything else, where can we find you to keep up to date?
Sure. That's very nice. I have a website, stevefrenchvo.com, where you can see a lot of my work in different categories and get in touch with me there, as you did. I'm also on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at stevefrenchvo on both of those. So thank you. Yeah. If anybody's, I love working with folks and love new projects that come along, and it's just, I feel very lucky to do what I do. And so it's an honor to be asked to come on and talk about what I do, because that's again not something I ever thought would happen to me. So thanks. This really has made my day.
Oh, you're so welcome, Steven. Thank you so much for your time. And I was just thinking about this, and has anybody ever asked you what type of work will you not do?
I suppose I'll know it when I hear it, I guess. That's probably the only way I can put that, So yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I guess.
Definitely. And I actually want to put one more thing on to what I was sharing earlier, before it escaped me. So it kind of works out with what I was showing you with the Haunted Vermont thing and the horror aspect. So I also run a horror. Here we go. The Haunted Vermont podcast, and I've actually recently discussed with a lady who does her very own champ search on Lake Champlain and stuff like that. So I've been talking to local people about, what they've been up to, what they're doing with the local paranormal world here and stuff. So I know she is probably the best person to go to for anything champ related right now, and she's got some very fascinating echolocations and just sound stuff that might be up your alley for Unsolved Mysteries or something. Wink.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, you can always submit a story at unsolved.com.
That's right. And one last thing is, so when we were talking about ghost stories, so I'll share with you one more, and then I'll let you go. I promise. So we have a street here called Marble Street in West Rutland, and supposedly there's a lady in white that walks down that road. It's the infamous, Phantom hitchhiker, and so we have one of those here. The only difference is there's almost like three different stories to this, and two of my favorites is if you see her during the drive at night and she's happy, I guess she'll have like a kid with her. We don't know who the kid is or whatever, but she's supposedly seen with a kid. And then there's days where people only see her by herself. And so there's also been rumors about how this lady was supposedly hit by a car on that exact road. And then there's also a story where if you follow this road for a few miles, it goes into what they call a ghost town, which is Whipple Hollow here. And that story or legend is one day during the marble industry, people basically packed up all their stuff and just moved out. So nobody knows why. So the theory is, was this lady in white part of that ghost town? And then another fascinating tale, real quick, is right by the same road, we have what they call the West Rutland Boardwalk, which is like a marsh, like a swampy area. There's a story about how people late at night or even during the day can hear ghostly whispers upon the swamp.
Wow, that's exciting.
And
Exciting.
yeah, so back in 2019, I took the Everything Horror and Haunted Vermont brand, and we kind of made a short film based on that tale that I just mentioned. So we called it The Passenger, Vermont Urban Legend.
Oh, well, you have to send me a link to it. I'd love to check it out.
It's all on YouTube, so you can definitely
great.
check it out. And I will
Great.
definitely send you a link to it. But yeah, Steve, I don't want to take up any more time. I know, we're all like a family man here, so we got kids and stuff, and we don't want the wife to, scream at us. But yeah, Steve, so thank you so much for your time.
Oh, of course, it's my pleasure, and happy upcoming Father's Day to you. I don't know when this will air, but happy Father's Day, and thanks again for all you do and for your support of the show, and please keep in touch.
Yeah, you as well, Steve. If you ever have anything that you would like to discuss, please reach out to me.
Excellent, will do. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
All right. So for everybody else listening, thank you so much. And if you enjoyed that, please go check out Steve French and everything Unsolved Mysteries with all the links in the description below. And until next time, people, stay scary.